Welcome to Friends and Fiction. 4 New York Times bestselling authors, endless stories. Novelists Mary Kay Andrews, Kristin Harmel, Kristy Woodson Harvey, and Patti Callahan Henry are 4 longtime friends with more than 70 published books between them. Together, they host Friends and Fiction, with author interviews and fascinating insider talk about publishing and writing, to highlight and support independent bookstores. They discuss the books they've written, the books they're reading now, and the art of storytelling. If you love books and you're curious about the writing world, you're in the right place.
Hello, everyone. It's Wednesday night, and that means it's time for the happiest hour on the internet, Friends and Fiction. So let's get rolling. I'm Kristy Woodson Harvey.
I'm Mary Kay Andrews.
I'm Patti Callahan Henry.
And I'm Ron Block.
And this is Friends and Fiction, 4 New York Times bestselling authors, endless stories to support indie bookstores, authors, and librarians. And speaking of librarians, Ron Block is in the Kristin seat tonight. She has deserted us for Paris. We can't believe that she chose Paris over us. No, we're so excited for her. It is a very well-deserved trip. We hope she's going to do a little research while she's there, if we're being honest. So tonight, we'll be welcoming Thrity Umrigar, author of The Extraordinary, The Museum of Failures. But before we get started, all of us at Friends and Fiction want to just express that our hearts and prayers are with all the families affected by this week's tragedies. And we want to reassure you that we are still here to do what we always do, which is find love, understanding, and common ground through the stories that bind us all. So with that said, let's get down to the business of talking about books.
Yeah, we are all so tremendously grateful for all of you out there who have supported us in our book launches this year. It truly means the world. And of course, you know that underlying everything is our mission to help support independent booksellers. One way you can help us do that is to buy from them when and where you can, or to visit our own Friends and Fiction bookshop.org page, where you can find Thrity's books and books by the 4 of us and all of our guests at a discount.
And speaking of amazing books, don't forget to join the Friends and Fiction official book club, which is a separate Facebook page with Brenda and Lisa. Be sure to follow them on October 16th when they will be discussing The Followers with Brady Godfrey.
And now, before we introduce tonight's guest, who is a lot of fun, y'all do not want to miss Thrity. She's fun.
Yes.
I got some big news to share. You know that Bright Lights Big Christmas is going to debut on the New York Times bestseller list this week at number 9. Number 9.
Woo! And I will have to say, notably,
I need horns.
We haven't received the list yet tonight, so we're crossing.
Where did you get that fancy pants 9?
Wow.
That was from the last time one of us made the list. I just happened to have it.
Oh, that was Kristin. That's amazing.
Yeah, because I never throw anything away. Anyway, I asked you guys to buy my book, damn it, and you actually really, really did.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful. But, you know, there's no rest for the wicked. And even as I'm still out touring for my current book, it's time to reveal the cover for my summer 2024 book.
Woo-woo!
And y'all, here on the air tonight is the world debut. You're going to be the very first to get to see the new cover in this live sneak preview. The title is Summers at the Saint.
Yay!
And it's coming on May 7th, 2024. Drum roll, please. There it is.
It's beautiful.
It's so great. It's so great. I like the streaks coming down. I don't think I saw that. Wasn't on the original one.
I remember that one.
I don't know. We've seen so many different iterations.
I love it.
Thanks. I'm happy with it too.
Drapes.
So,
Those are drapes.
Not streaks. I thought it was sunlight.
Drapes.
Yeah, it's a hotel room drapes. I'm so happy with this package, and I think artist extraordinaire Mike Storings and the team at St. Martin's Press really knocked it out of the park this time. The book is already now available for pre-order, and Meg will share the pre-order link in the comments. And stay tuned to my socials and the Friends and Fiction socials to see the cover and the pre-order link everywhere online tomorrow.
I love the pink in it. It's like
It's beautiful.
Yeah, I like it
Yeah.
too.
Wait
It's
a
not
minute.
even pink. What would you call that color?
Carl.
Kind of fuchsia.
Fuchsia.
No, it's
Fuchsia.
right.
Fuchsia.
We're gonna let the interior design madam tell us what that color
Meg said magenta. I like that. I think it's magenta.
Maybe.
Orchid. It could be orchid.
It
I
could be
think
orchid.
magenta is redder. I think
Yeah, I
it's
think so. I like orchid.
I like fuchsia
Orchid.
orchid.
orchid is yes. Yeah, I
The
like
fuchsia
that.
orchid
Mhm.
is on
Mhm.
there.
Mhm.
All right, we've solved that. Let's
It's
get on.
very
You got it all
Barbie.
set.
It's very Barbie of the moment, also, which
Oh
is
yeah,
Yes. Yes.
that's our
Okay.
MKA. Holla, always of the moment.
And oh, not that again.
Never live it down.
Did you ever get the shirt that said holla on it?
Yes.
Okay. So, with all this great news, don't you have even more news to share?
I do. The polls are closed. The ballot boxes have been stuffed, and the votes tallied. And I am so thrilled to let you know, Bright Lights Big Christmas was chosen as the reader's choice for the CBS New York Book Club with Mary Cabby. Calvi. This is, it's just another testament to the power of this amazing community. So thank you all from the bottom of my heart for casting your votes and putting your support behind me and Bright Lights Big Christmas. And we will share the links to the TV coverage. I was actually on TV this morning I had to get makeup at 7 a.m. That's why my hair looks good. And I still have on makeup, although, it's getting a little faded by now.
You're hilarious.
So I had a haircut that I was supposed to go to the day before Maryland, which for those of you who were there, I'm so sorry I was not there. I was not feeling well, and I was also very not feeling well on Tuesday. So I have not had a haircut in so long that I don't even know what to do. It's really, really bad. But anyway.
Oh, I think it looks really. I like it. I like when it gets
great.
So hers looks good. Mine is way too long, but that's okay. We're just rolling with it. Okay, so we are so excited because tonight we are going to welcome Thrity Umrigar to the Friends in Fiction stage.
Thrity is the best-selling author of several novels, including Bombay Time, The Space Between Us, and If Today Be Sweet. Her books have been translated into several languages and published in over 15 countries.
Thrity was, that is not me. That is you, Ron.
Oh, that's me. Thrity was born in Bombay, India, and came to the United States when she was 21. Wow. After earning an MA in journalism in the U.S., Thrity worked for several years as an award-winning reporter, columnist, and magazine writer. Her articles have been published in national publications such as the New York Times, the Washington Post, and the Boston Globe.
She also earned a PhD in English. In 1999, Thrity won a one-year Nieman Fellowship to Harvard University, which is given to mid-career journalists.
She's a distinguished university professor of English at Case Western Reserve University in Cleveland. She's active on the national lecture circuit and has spoken at book festivals such as the LA Festival of Books, the Tucson Book Festival, and the Miami Book Fair International, at universities such as MIT, Harvard, and Spelman College, and at literary societies, civic and business organizations, and public libraries all over the place.
In other words, slacker.
Yeah.
And she's here with us tonight. Can you even believe it?
Yeah.
Sean, can you please bring Thrity on?
Hi.
Hello.
Guys.
Hello.
Hi.
We're
Can we go drinking now?
Yes.
We're so excited to have you here tonight to talk about this engrossing new novel, The Museum of Failures. This is a novel about Remy, a man who returns to Bombay from Ohio, where he is currently living, with the hope of adopting a Parsi child. While he is there, he discovers that his cousins haven't been caring for his mother, who was left in their care, and that she is in the hospital very ill and has quit eating and speaking. Despite their tumultuous relationship, he is swamped with guilt and vows to nurse her back to health as best he can in his short time in Bombay. His presence cheers his mother, and they are able to return home, where he stumbles upon a family secret and has to confront his past, his childhood, and everything he believed about his own life, just as he is about to embark on the journey of parenthood himself. So that's a little bit about what the Museum of Failures is about. Can you tell us a little more? And can you tell us what it's really about?
Gosh, I was just sitting here thinking, this is the best summary that I have ever heard about this novel.
Oh, that's
And
very
I
nice.
just feel like taking you on the road with me so that I'm
I'm ready.
so bad at this kind of stuff and you're so obviously good at it. So, okay, what else can I tell you about this novel? What is it really about? I guess what it's really about is the notion of forgiveness and forgiveness despite some really mighty betrayals, at the hands of his own family that Remy stumbles upon and discovers, right? And like most of us, I mean, thankfully, most of us don't have such a huge bombshell ever dropped in our lives. But if we were to, I imagine that we would be faced with choices, right? Either to end up being angry and bitter, or to seek a path of reconciliation and forgiveness. And I guess a lot of the novel then hinges on the decisions that Remy makes.
It's beautifully said.
Yes.
It's hard to know what our own books are really about. So and sometimes I don't think we know until we're done writing them. So that was beautiful. But Bombay is your land in many ways. I have never been, and you brought it to such vivid life in this novel. Readers will feel like they have visited, and it's such a treat to discover in reading that the title of the book is actually a reference to Bombay. You write of your protagonist, Remy. He had often thought of Bombay as the museum of failures, an exhibit hall filled with thwarted dreams and broken promises. Also loved this passage. But this was the essence of Bombay, this city of duality and wild contradictions, of skyscraper and slum. Can you talk to us about why you decided to set the novel in Bombay and how you went about painting such a clear picture of the city?
That's a great question. And I think I chose the setting of Bombay for two reasons. One is it's the city of my birth. It's the city that I'm most familiar with. So it made logical sense to set it there. But also, perhaps more significantly, is the fact that Remy himself is a Parsi. And sorry, but here comes a brief, very quick history lesson.
No, we want it.
No,
Tell
bring
us.
it, bring it.
So the Parsis are this tiny, tiny, tiny minority, religious and ethnic minority in India. I was raised a Parsi, and so is Remy. And basically, my ancestors came from what used to be Persia about 1,000 years ago to India. And even though 1,000 years is a very, very long time, believe it or not, they have really held on to a lot of their Persian roots and customs and traditions, while also incorporating a lot of the local culture into what's known as Parsi culture. So the Parsis are practitioners of an ancient faith called Zoroastrianism. And the most recent estimates are that there are maybe around 40,000 to 100,000 Parsis left in the world.
Oh,
Right?
that's all.
So it's a dying religion on top of everything else. But it's a very sweet and joyous and exuberant kind of a community, right? Although they are faced with this existential threat of decline. And Remy belongs to that same community. And the vast majority of the Parsis in India are based in Bombay. Bombay is sort of the most Western, the most cosmopolitan city in India. So a lot of them live there. So for both those reasons, personal as well as it making sense, I decided to set the novel there.
Okay. When is the last time you were do you go home? Do you see Bombay often?
I do. Not terribly often. These days, I have very little family left there. So
Okay.
it's more for professional reasons than personal, though, of course, I do see friends and family when I'm there. And the last time I was there was just last year.
Okay. So when you were working on this book, you were feeling the spaces and places of Bombay again.
Yeah, very much so.
You painted that community as such a sort of joyful place. Like it was something that you really could feel, like the energy of that community. And that was really well done. I was going to just remind everybody really quickly that if you have a question that you would like to ask Thrity, drop it in our Facebook page, because if we have time, we will be taking some live questions for her.
But now I have a question. Thrity, you said in an interview, immigration or migration in some ways is sort of the story of human history. In that sense, it's one of the most universal stories that humankind knows and tells itself. Now, that is such a powerful notion and statement, and immigration colors every aspect of this story. And honestly, I think of contemporary life.
Yeah.
Remy thinks about it, as you put it, that persistent hope, the immigrant's dream of braiding the disparate strands of his life together. And that is such a powerful notion.
Yeah.
I wish you'd tell us how Remy attempts to braid his disparate strands in this novel. And does one ever succeed in that?
I'll answer the first half of the question because that's easier. I think, well, for instance, one of the things that he does when his beloved father is living, despite the fact that, as some of you have alluded to, he has an extremely difficult relationship with his mom, he invites both of them to his home in Columbus that he shares with his American wife, Kathy, for, extended vacations. And there's a line in the book that says something to the effect of, those are some of the happiest moments of his life, when his entire world, his entire family is under the same roof. And of course, this is not a foreign notion to any of us who have families that we actually like, right? I mean, in other words, you don't have to be an immigrant to know that feeling of contentment and peace. Think of Thanksgiving dinner without the cranky uncle, how joyous
uncle.
how great that feels, right? So I think in all these ways, Remy tries to sort of bridge past and present together as much as he can. Does he succeed in this? I think he succeeds in the moment. There are moments of great transcendent joy. But overall, that feeling of sort of having a foot in two worlds, of being very much an insider. I mean, he's a very he's an American for all outward purposes, right? He has a wife that he gets along with very well. It's a loving marriage. He has a beautiful home in Columbus. He has a very successful business. I mean, he is the embodiment of the American dream. And yet there is some part of him that always feels the sense of the divided self. And, even though I'm pulling it completely out of context, when I wrote that passage, Mary Kay, I was thinking of the great Du Bois notion of double consciousness, and of course he was applying it to African Americans in a very specific manner.
Right.
But I think for those of us who basically have built lives on the hyphen, so to speak, there is always that sense of, do I belong everywhere, which is a very joyous and optimistic way of looking at one's life, or do I belong nowhere, which is the opposite, right? Mm-hmm. And depending on mood and what's happened on any given day, I think we can fall into either or camp.
Building your life on the hyphen. That has to be that is, wow.
Beautiful.
That's beautiful. Yeah.
Sounds like an essay to me, Thrity. Get to it.
Okay, right now, after we have that drink.
Yeah. I'm having mine now.
I don't know why I'm sounding like a slush, but hey, you guys are
not. And every sentence you say makes me have other questions, and I have to not go rogue and ask all my other many questions that you've raised. I swear to God, I'm not going rogue tonight, y'all.
Okay, all right.
Sometimes it's the best.
It is. I know. Well, Thrity, you have credited a couple of your teachers with inspiring you to become a writer, which I have to think must be maybe like the greatest honor of their entire life. So could you tell us a little bit about these teachers and maybe your journey to publishing and how you got here?
Yeah, it was truly the long and winding road. I mean, I grew up in a middle class home in India. My dad had his own business. Everybody that we knew, every family friend was, they either worked at a bank or an office, or they had their own businesses. I didn't know anybody who was like what I would call a dreamer, or a creative type. I mean, everybody was bent on making money and earning a good living and pulling themselves up by the bootstraps and all that. So I felt like a freak of nature very often because I loved writing and I loved books, and I was that kid. And there was no, I mean, I came from a very loving and supportive family in many ways. But my folks were horrified at the notion of me becoming a writer. I mean, they just, how does one live if one does such a preposterous thing? So there was not that kind of support or encouragement. So what I had to do was turn to my schools for that. And I'm so lucky. I think I'm sitting here before you today because initially, like when I was in seventh grade or so, my English teacher, Greta Marquis was her name. And she just, she was one of those personalities, she would come into the classroom and it was like she brought the world in with her. I remember, her announcing in class in seventh grade that we were about to start reading Shakespeare. And we all like quaked in our boots because to us, we'd all grown up hearing about Shakespeare, but we thought this was like, he was going to speak in a different language that none of us spoke. And we were so intimidated. And she made Shakespeare. We read the comedies, obviously. She made it so much fun, right? And I learned a lot. And she was very, very encouraging of me. As I was one of those classic backbencher kind of students. Every grade card that I brought home doesn't live up to her potential and all that. And somehow she saw through all my posturing and wanting to be with the cool kids and, all that, and she was there for me every step of the way. So that was the first influence that I had. I had never written a book before. One of the reasons that I applied for the Nieman Fellowship to Harvard was I was hoping against hope that it would give me an opportunity to do my own work, even while I was fulfilling, the responsibilities of the fellowship. And I took a creative writing class with the great Brad Woodson. And same thing, what eventually became my first novel originated, the first chapter of that was a short story, I thought. And it was Brad who said to me, keep writing, and I have a feeling that this is a novel and not just a short story. So every step along the way, there's been somebody in my life who has encouraged me and brought me to this point.
That's amazing.
I think we need to take a moment to have a moment of applause for amazing, inspiring teachers.
Yes.
Man.
Yeah.
I have a feeling you must be one too, Thrity.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Well, this is the other thing I wanted to say to you, that not only did Greta Marquis encourage me to someday become a writer, to even imagine that future for myself, but I often think of her even today in the classroom. The joy, her love for books, her passion for books was so infectious that, I was already a bookworm, but many of my classmates had never picked up a book voluntarily, and they started doing it after having her for a teacher. So if I can be, half as good, it'll be great for me.
Not only a mentor, but an inspiration.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Amazing.
I feel like I speak for all of us when I say we wish that we were in your class.
I know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, as a writing teacher, do you have any words of wisdom or maybe a sort of writing tip that you could share with our audience, which really means with us?
Okay. I feel like there are two kinds of writers in this world. Those who proclaim that they have a book within them and they talk the book out at cocktail parties, or here we go again with the cocktail reference, or wherever. Like, they basically speak the book out and they never get down to actually writing it. And then there are people like us who actually at some point made a promise to ourselves that whatever story was burning within us, we were going to set it free. And we were willing to pay the price for it, right? I mean, writing, I don't know if it's true for you guys, but it's physically challenging,
Yeah.
I mean, you're sitting at a computer for hours. It's a strain on every part of your body in some ways. But more than that, you're missing out on so much.
Yeah.
I have never been able to keep up with the current shows on TV, because while the rest of the world is binging on those, I'm sitting at my desk and writing. I've always had a day job while being a writer. So I've had to be very, very judicious with my use of time. So this is not glamorous, sexy advice about writing. But all I will say is, if you feel so moved to tell a story, then just stop talking about it, stop thinking about it, and do it. And don't make excuses. The fact is, every human being on earth only has 24 hours in any given day. Nobody gets that extra 25th hour, right? So put it to good use, sacrifice, give up other things. And also, the flip side of that is, it's perfectly fine to go through your life without ever writing creatively.
Ever.
Right?
Yeah.
You don't have to. Hey, less competition for us. Do your best. Go be the best plumber or electrician that you can. Don't write. But the people who need to write are the ones who will want to write, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I love that.
Okay. So, Thrity, you know how heartfelt I find your books and how connected I always feel to them. And it reminds me of this quote that's attributed to you. A book is a sort of interpretive dance between reader and writer. When a reader holds a book, they bring their entire life experience to bear upon that book. In doing so, the book is transformed. Instead of dead words on the page, the book now becomes three-dimensional. The words rise off the page and enter the reader's life. It's a magical transformation that is the lifeblood of literature. A book without readers is just a pile of dead trees. That's
Did I say that?
Yes.
yes.
That's pretty good. I
Yeah.
like it.
And that might be the most beautiful explanation of the glorious nature of reading that we've ever come across. And we know that each reader will experience this particular book in a distinct way. But are there things that you hope readers take away from this novel?
Yeah, there are two things that I hope people take away from this novel. One is, I think I've alluded to this before, the power of forgiveness, right? The power of letting go, the power of kindness, frankly, and I really do think, I mean, I apply this to my own life, when you forgive somebody, you're not really doing it for them, right? You're doing it for yourself. There's a paradox there, and I've never been able to figure it out, but it's a good paradox. You're freeing something in yourself, although you think you're doing it for the sake of the other person. So that's one. But the other thing also is, this book, as some of you have noted, does speak about immigration, has this notion of the divided self. My main character, as I've said earlier, is extremely lucky. He comes from a background of privilege in India, and he certainly occupies that same position in his life in America. And yet, despite every advantage, every privilege, there is a kind of longing in him, right? When I was writing this book, it was during the Trump years. And there was a lot of immigrant bashing going on then. You might recall that, right? And granted, most of the conversation, of course, revolved around the border and people crossing illegally into the country. But I felt very strongly that if somebody like Remy, if somebody like me, I came here with every privilege imaginable, right? And America has been nothing but good to me, right? And if I can still sometimes feel that much turmoil and the pull and the tug, the pull and push, I can't even begin to imagine what life would be like for somebody who comes here with nothing, right? So, Ron, you used the word empathy a few minutes ago. And I think at its best, that is what literature does. It just softens our hearts a little bit. I have no illusions about the Museum of Failures. I don't think it's going to reset US immigration policy. It's not going to do any of this thing. For all I know, it may not even change anybody's mind about approaching this really morally charged topic of immigration differently than what they already believe. But if we can just soften the hearts, if this calcification of the arteries, that has happened in the last 6-7 years in this country, if that can just lessen for even a moment, then I'm very happy that I wrote this book.
Oh, that's beautiful, Thrity.
So are we. Ooh.
If we could just get behind the eyes, behind the heart, under the skin, and if you can help us do that, golly, let's do it.
Yeah.
So, Thrity, we have a question we love to ask around here, and we want to ask you now. And it's great because it combines with a live question we just got from Carrie Soderman, who wants to know what your relationship with your mother was like. And what we love to ask about is what the values around reading and writing were like in your home in Bombay. Were you encouraged to read and write? What was the ethos around that? And what was your relationship like with your mother?
Yeah, it was exactly the opposite of, I remember my mom coming to every parent-teacher conference with just one complaint: she reads too much, and I would look from her to the teacher, like even at a young age, thinking, wait, there's something wrong here. This is not the thing that she should be complaining about. But, I was an absent-minded, goofy kid who was forever losing things and walked around with, I was a dreamy kid, walked around with my head in the clouds. And I'm sure it was terribly irritating when it came to, getting to school on time, waking up on time. I always had my nose in a book.
Me too.
So instead of like encouraging it, I wouldn't say that I was actively discouraged from reading. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to overstate it. But I do remember, and now it seems funny to me, that this was the one thing my mom complained about every single parent-teacher conference. Having said that, I had an aunt who got me my very first library card. And libraries in India are not free like they are here. I remember when I came to this country, I went to Ohio State, and I walked into that beautiful big library for the first time and very timidly approached the librarian. And I said, "Excuse me, can you tell me how many books I can check out at one time?" And she said, "As many as you want." And I looked at her and I said, "Haha, that's funny, but no, really, I'm sincerely asking you, how many books can I take out at a time?" And she said, "As many as you want." So I thought, okay, I'll call your bluff. So I said, "Okay, for how long?" And she said, "As long as you want, for the entire semester." And when I realized that, my knees just turned to jelly. It was like, oh my God, I've like landed in, this is really true. Everything I've heard about greatest country in the world and all that, I've just died and gone to heaven, But so the library that I joined as a kid, was a private library, and it was just a monthly membership. And I had an aunt who, I think throughout my life in India, paid that monthly fee for me.
Wow.
That encouraged me to read. And I would check out literally a book a day,
That's a great story.
Wow.
Oh, I'm so glad we asked that. That is such
I
a
know, me too.
story.
What a great answer. I love that. Well, we have one last question for Thrity, so stick with us. But first, a quick couple messages from us.
Yeah, if you are not signed up for our weekly email newsletter yet, I just said yet twice. Anyway, make sure you head over to friendsandfiction.com to sign up so that you're looped in on all our updates. We include exclusive Q&As with our guests like Thrity, which always cover more than we can get to on the show. So make sure you're subscribed.
Definitely. And we also love reminding you about our Friday podcast because it is so incredible. And we have had some of the most fascinating guests. In fact, Thrity joined us last year for her book Honor. And we always post a link to the newest episode on Facebook and Instagram, or better yet, subscribe on your favorite podcast platform, and you'll be notified when each one drops. On the most recent episode, Patti and I talked to Ashley Winstead about Midnight is the Darkest Hour, which was just optioned for the screen. And coming this Friday, Kristy and I will be talking with Rochelle Weinstein about What You Do to Me. And they're both so good. So good. I hope everybody tunes in and listens.
Yeah. Okay, Thrity, before you go, can you tell our viewers where they can find you on the road and online in the coming weeks?
Oh, so I'm going to be at the Southern Festival of Books, which is in Nashville, Tennessee, in just a couple of weeks, right, Patti?
Yeah, we'll both be there
on October 21st, in fact. And
it's only like 10 days away. Yeah, it's coming up.
Such a good festival. I love
Yeah.
it.
And I'm going to do the Miami Book Festival later in November. And you can always find me on social media, on Facebook, on Instagram, and a little bit on Twitter, too.
All right. Well, you have been an amazing guest, and we are so
Yes.
grateful that you came on and shared your story with us. It was a really unforgettable night, and I'm sure that all of our viewers feel the same, and one that I know I'll be watching again. So thank you for sharing your time. And to all of you out there, please make sure that you check out the Museum of Failures out now. Thank you so much, Thrity.
Thank you, guys. You guys are just
Thank you so
incredible.
much.
Thank you so
So are
much.
you.
Bye.
Thanks, Thrity.
Take
Bye.
care.
Congrats.
Lovely seeing you all. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Don't forget that you can find all of our back episodes on YouTube. We'll be back next week to welcome Jean Kwok, author of The Leftover Woman. We have such a fun episode in store for you. And we'll see you in just a minute for the after show. So stick around. Thanks for being with us, and we'll see you next week. Good night.
Good night, y'all.
Right.
Thank you for tuning in. You can join us every week on Facebook or YouTube, where our live show airs on Wednesday nights at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Also, subscribe to our podcast and follow us on Instagram. We're so glad you're here.
What a guest.
What a guest. Yeah.
I mean, I
I'm
feel like
I'm knocked out totally.
me too.
Yeah, she's one of the kindest hearted people I've ever met.
She's so
She's
funny and charming. And anyway,
Well, also, I just feel kind of filled up, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Like
yeah.
full of goodness and thought-provoking things. And yeah, what a night.
yeah.
I love what she said about forgiveness and empathy.
Definitely.
Yeah. She was incredible. She
And
really was.
this is a time in history where we really have to study those emotions.
Yeah, for sure.
Wise words.
Wise words for sure. Well, speaking of wise, wonderful people, I know we all missed Kristin tonight, and I'm sure she missed being here with us. And
I'm sure. Us or Paris.
she's,
I'm sure she's super
oh, look,
sad.
she said sorry to miss. See, she did miss me.
She does miss
Told
us.
you.
Oh.
Told you. She's getting ready to get on her plane to Paris. So she actually probably would just rather be here than getting on the plane part of the
Yeah,
trip.
true.
But
I'm sure.
Yeah.
speaking of that, so do you guys have any recent or upcoming travels that you're excited about or you want to share with us?
Yeah. I'm going to the Southern Festival of Books, but that's just a couple hours up the road. But I am finally going to Hawaii, my yearly trip to Hawaii to see my
Yay.
daughter. And so I leave in 2 weeks. And little less than 2 weeks, every day, my granddaughter on FaceTime or the phone says, "Mamo, how many days and now or weeks? And now we're down to days." So I'm really excited. And then I'll be with our Mary Kay when we'll both be teaching in Hawaii at the Kauai Writers Conference. So that is my big trip. And I'm usually kind of sad to leave, but I know I'm home in my office, but the rest of my house is uninhabitable. This one square in my office is the only inhabitable thing. So a lot is supposed to get done while I'm gone. So
That's good. That's good.
how about
Jay,
you guys?
what about you?
Me?
Kathy? Yeah. Sorry.
I'm tomorrow I go to Florence, South Carolina to the library there. And I'm looking forward to that. Then Friday I'm in Charleston. And Saturday I'm in Hilton Head. I come home. I work on rewrites. Next weekend. I'm going to the West Virginia Festival of Books, and I'm excited about that. I've never been to that festival. And then I've got some more tour stuff. And then, as Patti said, I will be in Hawaii, starting November 8th. I'm looking forward to that. And then I haven't been in California for a long time, so I've got three tour dates in California on the way back from Hawaii. And so I am going to be with a couple of writers who I haven't met in person, but whose work I adore. So I'm going to be with Julia Whalen.
Oh, she's
whose book I loved. Thank you for listening. I'm going to be with her in LA at Zibby Books, and I'm going to be in San Diego. I don't know I'm brain dead. And then
it's on your website.
Yeah, it's on my website. All the deets are on my website. And then I have never been to Palm Springs. So super pumped about that because I'm going to be in discussion with Stephen Rowley, who wrote, I know Ron and I both went gaga over the Guncle.
The Guncle, yeah.
So did Meg. She's like an evangelist for that book.
I am too. So yeah. So that's what I've got coming up.
Oh, so many exciting things. And a rewrite. Okay.
Ron, what about you?
Somewhere. Well,
you just got back from New York.
I just got back from New
I
York.
didn't get to go with you.
I know. I wish you had been able to. It was another whirlwind, fun, amazing trip with great shows and great food, and got to see some great friends. And
What was your favorite show?
Oh, it might be Merrily We Roll Along.
I'd like to see that just for the historic value.
Exactly, but it's Daniel Radcliffe and Jonathan Groff, so it's like star power. So it was a great show.
What is it about?
It's a story told backwards, and it's about these friendships and kind of like these people that are creative. One is a novelist, one is a songwriter, and one is a lyricist, and it's kind of how they all goes all the way back to where they first met. But it starts at the end where their lives are all really messy. But the music is so
I know
beautiful.
This. Okay, yeah.
And I had forgotten some of the songs from it, so I'm like, wow.
So it was not a hit the first time around on Broadway, right?
It was not, no.
Who was now? Tell us about it. It's a composer and all that.
Stephen Sondheim.
That's what I thought. I thought it was a Sondheim play.
And you can tell. I mean, I could hear some of the music and go like, "Hey, this sounds like Company."
Yeah, that's awesome.
Great.
How about you, Kristy?
We have a lot of little stuff coming up. Like we're going to Bald Head this coming weekend with a bunch of friends from out of town, but they all have they're like some of Little Will's best friends. So that's going to be really fun. It's like a bunch of families. We've got 2 huge houses side by side. So it'll be chaos. If you haven't been to Bald Head, it's really cool. You take a ferry over and there are no cars. And
I was there this summer. It's amazing.
Yeah. No, I know. No, I meant the collective audience.
No, I know. It's amazing though.
Yeah. And then we're going to a football game and, I think
Go
we're going
Heels
right after Christmas, which we're all really excited about because
where are you going after Christmas?
Yeah, I'm going to Key West.
Again.
I haven't been since I was little, and the boys want to fish, and of course I want to go to the Hemingway house. And I love being a tourist and doing the conch train, and
that's awesome.
So I think my parents are going to go, and we're going to do a big family trip.
Sounds awesome.
relive the glory moments, and so lots of fun stuff coming up. But yeah.
Much to look forward to.
Yes. So, guys, this was so fun. I
What a
love
night.
seeing all of you. Thanks for filling in,
Yes.
Ron. We love it when
Thank
you're
you for
here.
having
Although,
me.
of course,
My
we miss
goodness.
Kristin. Yeah.
It was amazing.
Yeah. Well,
Kristin, if you're still listening, we hope you have the most amazing trip.
Yeah.
we do. We love you and we miss you.
Wait,
Yeah.
are we going to talk about our favorite place? A book has been set? I wanted to talk about that.
Okay.
Okay.
I was going to let you go, but if you want to talk about that, let's talk about it. You've got up earliest, so I thought I would let you go. Let's talk about your favorite place that a book has ever taken you.
No, I want you all to talk.
Nope.
No,
Nope.
you go
It's on
first.
you.
You go first.
I just like that question. I went to London in May with a couple of good friends, and fortunately they are total history buffs and book nerds. And each of us chose kind of a place we really wanted to see on this trip. And I chose Bletchley Park outside of London, where so much of the World War II Enigma code breaking happened. And I had read about it in several different novels, but I read a lot about it in Kate Quinn's The Rose Code, which I just adore. I'm a huge fan of her work. And that was a really cool thing to see.
I know you made me want to see it when you sent all the pictures.
Yeah, it was
You
so
know.
neat.
Because we've all read about it, even in Kate Quinn's, but it's been in a lot. I mean,
Oh,
what
yeah.
was what was the one about him decoding the movie where he?
Oh, Alan Turing.
Yeah.
The Imitation Game.
Right. The Imitation Game was, which was, I think.
So I've always wanted to
Yeah.
get out there and see it. So
Yeah.
What about you, Patti?
So the best place a book like has imaginatively taken me to or literally taken me to. I'm going to go with literal.
Taylor's choice.
I'm going to do literal because, and I'm going to selfishly say mine because when I was doing research for becoming Mrs. Lewis, I would always loved England and London, but when I went to visit all the places that are in that book, I just felt so attached. And what did I do? I wrote another 3 books, or the one I'm working on, set in that kind of atmosphere. But I will say that I felt like I'd kind of visited it because I visited it a lot in one of the authors that Mary Kay and I talk about, which is Kate Morton. And when I used to read her books, I used to always think, I want to visit the English countryside, the way she described it, all the mystery. And then when I finally got to do it, I was like, bing, I love it. So,
Ron?
So it's no secret that one of my favorite books of all time is The Prince of Tides, Conroy. And I think the first time it connected for me was when I was going over the bridge for the as an adult into Newbern, and I saw the Low Country, and it just made me absolutely fall in love with the South. And ever since then, I've just been obsessed with it, and everything about the book and the setting, it stayed with me forever.
Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing. I love that answer. Well, I think for me, this is like, I love that I wrote this question and didn't think of
and then
an
didn't even think about it.
didn't occur to me to have an answer to the question. No, but this is like going way back in my childhood. But I remember I was like 10, I guess. And no, I think I was in 7th grade. I was in 7th grade. So however old you are, 13. And I read this book about Pompeii. And so my parents, we were doing a trip to Italy and, doing it was back, when you get the big Fodor's guide, there was no internet to search where you were going. So you'd flip through all the places you want to go. And I just kept being like, I want to go to Pompeii. I want to go to Pompeii. I want to go to Pompeii. Cause I just read this book about Pompeii and I just thought it was the coolest thing in the whole world. And so I'll always remember that because I feel like it was the first place that I ever really wanted to go, and they took me and it was really, it's something that I still remember to this day and something that, it's creepy and bizarre, but very unique and interesting.
I would love to see that. And when I see it in movies or read about it in books, or when people show it on Instagram, they visited, it's like a frozen in time. Ooh, it just Yeah, I would love
It's
to
so
see
bizarre. I mean, it really is. It's like, it is. It's literally frozen in time. And
that.
yeah, and I think it was just cool too, because it was the first place that I was like, this is where I want to go. And I remember my
Yeah.
parents kind of being like, oh,
Okay. Okay, creepy girl.
great. But then we all loved it and just thought it was like fascinating. And I mean, it's sad, like,
It's
obviously
sad. Yeah.
it's sad, but it's just so fascinating that this like whole civilization is just frozen in time forever.
Yes.
So anyway, on that thrilling note,
On that dead note, let's go.
see, if I thought about it, I would have picked something more cheerful.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
On
Exactly.
that thrilling note, I have tortellini to have for dinner.
Oh,
All
good
right.
for
All right,
you.
guys.
Good for
Pasta too.
You are.
Yeah.
you. Nice.
All right, everybody. Well, sleep tight. Good night.
Have an
And
amazing night.
everybody,
you
we'll see you
again.
next week.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
Take care. Bye.